Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a TV review. Today we'll be having a look at the second episode of the third season of Spartacus. So the story takes place pretty much straight after obviously episode 1, and the end of episode 1 saw Spartacus having to sort of think about relocating his much larger force now because where they are simply can't hold them and they're not able to survive. So they have eyes to a sort of city where one of the slaves was before, which can be well defended, and make plans to essentially take over it. But what I liked about this episode, it wasn't just them running in, killing stuff. It was actually a little bit of subterfuge and a little bit of sort of sneakiness involved. So it's basically what happens is they sort of pose as Romans to go into the to get into the city, and then basically sort of pay a blacksmith to make him some weapons. They have to hand their weapons in at the gate. Well, a couple of them do anyway. So you've got Spartacus, Gannicus and Crictus in there, just to sort of like as a small force. And then the idea being that they'll sort of undo the gates of a night and let the sort of the rebel force in to take over the city. And in the subplot, you've also got Crassus sort of building up his army now. He's in command of the army sent to essentially destroy Spartacus. And then you've also got a new character, and then of course this is Caesar. So Caesar's coming in as a ally to Crassus, and you know he's basically portrayed here as a sort of savage kind of war hero, so to speak, and who has got a title but he hasn't got any sort of wealth beneath him. So whilst Crassus has a lot of wealth, he doesn't have a title. So the idea of them being sort of to join forces. Now I have to say, it's certainly a Caesar that you haven't really seen in other sort of depictions. I would say he's obviously quite a lot younger here and quite the bad boy. That's all I'll say about that. Anyway, the main plot is essentially the attempt to try and take over the city, as I say, and I actually quite like the sort of the sneaking around and the sort of the little bit of treachery going on there, and you're introduced to sort of a host of other sort of Roman sort of characters that are in this other city. And you sort of wonder if maybe that Spartacus will end up sort of befriending some of them. Anyway, so the night comes and they make the attempt to try and open the gates, and obviously this is when all the action happens. And as usual with Spartacus, it's obviously very, very bloody. I'd actually say there's probably less action in this episode than the majority of episodes, but they successfully open the gates, and all the rebel army are sort of flooding in. And what happens is they actually end up killing not just the sort of the guards, but pretty much the majority of the Romans, even a lot of civilians. And you sort of see, they don't really say too much, but you sort of see the look on Spartacus' face, where you sort of see these like the dead children, for example, and what he's actually done. But he never really apologises for it, which was interesting. There are a few Roman survivors, and basically he sort of stops them from killing anyone else. So I quite like this episode. It was a not as I say action packed as some of the episodes, but I think you can't have a series where it is just wall to wall action and really hold your interest. So I actually quite like the change of pace. It was it certainly had a beginning, middle, and end. So it was it was a good episode in regards to the sort of structure of the story. I would say that. And obviously at the moment you're sort of seeing two separate stories, really, with Spartacus and then with Crassus and Caesar. So they've yet to really meet those two stories. So I'm assuming probably maybe by the sort of the fourth episode, maybe fourth or fifth, this is when we'll see the sort of the sort of culmination of these two stories sort of merging into one. So I really enjoyed it. There's not really a lot to say. I mean, if you're just after sort of action wall to wall, there is action in it, but it's certainly not the most action packed episodes. And some of the characters don't end up, certainly the new Roman characters who end up introduced doesn't exactly happen how I thought it would, which is probably a good thing. I wasn't massively keen on the Caesar character, on how he's portrayed. He's basically portrayed as a sort of a rock star, if I can use that analogy. So if you've seen the episode, you'll know what I mean. He comes across a bit like a swaggering rock star, and sort of, you know, he's a bit of a badass, and he's, you know, he's got his blonde hair and everything like that, and he looks like Bret Michaels. So, you know, there you go. I quite like the Crassus character, but I'm not so keen on Caesar at the moment. So all in all, I'll give this episode an 8 out of 10. What did you think of it? Your views, leave me a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the review episode 3. See you later.